You have a good career, a respectable title, a stable income. By all the measures the world has given you, you have made it. So why do you feel that quiet, persistent ache on a Sunday night? That nagging whisper in your soul that asks, "Is this all there is?" What if that feeling is not a sign of ingratitude? What if it is not a sign that you have failed? What if that hollowness you feel at the peak of your success is actually a sacred summons? A signal that your soul is finally ready for its real work. I spent the first 15 years of my professional life climbing a ladder I was very good at climbing, only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. That feeling of emptiness after making it was one of the most confusing and painful experiences of my life. And the most common advice I received was the single worst piece of advice you can give someone in this position. Follow your passion. Here is a truth that Carl Jung understood profoundly. That advice is mostly wrong. It sends you on a frantic external search for a perfect job that probably does not exist. Your true calling is not a passion you must find out there. It is a mystery you must uncover in here. In our time together today, we will leave the world of job listings and embark on a psychological excavation. This is a core part of your shadow work journey. We will explore the two great journeys of life and why the second one requires a different map. The three sacred clues to your life's work, hidden in your childhood, your wounds, and your dreams. And how to build a safe bridge from your current career to your calling without having to take a terrifying leap. If you feel that deep misalignment between the work you do and the person you are, this is your guide to finding the path back home.
Your greatest success might be the source of your deepest suffering. This is the strange, painful paradox of the first half of life. Society gives us a very simple map, a very clear ladder. Go to school, get the job, climb the rungs, acquire the titles, the house, the security. We are taught that at the top of this ladder, we will find a permanent state of satisfaction. We believe, with all our hearts, that happiness is a destination we can achieve. And for many of us, especially those of us listening here, we were good at climbing. We were disciplined. We worked hard. We sacrificed. We played the game by the rules. And we won. We reached the top of the ladder. And what did we find there? A beautiful view, perhaps, for a little while, but eventually, a profound, echoing emptiness. The Sunday night dread, the quiet, terrifying question that haunts the successful. I did everything right, so why doesn't it feel right? To understand this strange paradox, this collective spiritual crisis of our time, we must turn to one of Carl Jung's most profound and practical ideas, the two halves of life. Jung saw the human lifespan not as a single linear progression, but as two great journeys, two entirely different mountains to climb, each with its own unique map, its own unique purpose, and its own definition of success. The first half of life, the morning of our journey, which can last until our late 30s or early 40s, has one primary essential task: ego development. The goal is to build a strong, stable container for our identity. We must forge a persona, a functional mask that allows us to navigate the social world. We must learn the rules of the tribe. We must prove our competency, build a career, establish a family, create a sense of security and belonging. This is the work of building an empire in the outer world. And this work is not a mistake. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is the heroic, necessary, and vital work of the morning. But then, something begins to shift. Somewhere around midlife, the sun of our life reaches its zenith, its highest point, and it begins its long, gentle descent into the afternoon. And in the afternoon of life, Jung taught, the rules of the game change completely. The task is no longer ego development. The task is soul-making. It is the journey of connecting with the self, the deep, authentic core of our being. The empire we built on the outside no longer provides the same satisfaction. A new summons is issued, a quiet call to begin building the kingdom on the inside. The career that once defined you now starts to feel like a cage. The ladder you climbed so skillfully feels like it was leaning against the wrong wall. This is the collapse of the achievement-based model of happiness. You have discovered the great, painful secret of the first half of life, that no amount of external success can fill an internal void. For most of my 30s, my identity was my job title. My worth was measured in promotions and praise. I was a master ladder climber, and I reached the top only to find nothing there but a cold wind and a profound loneliness. I thought I was broken. I thought I was ungrateful. But I wasn't broken. I had just reached the end of the first map. The map had served its purpose brilliantly, but it could not show me the way through this new, uncharted territory. The feeling of crisis, of being lost at midlife, is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of a profound success. You have so successfully completed the task of the first half of life, you have built a strong enough ego that your psyche now deems you ready for the deeper, more meaningful, and far more rewarding work of the second half. The emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It is a graduation ceremony. Your soul is not trying to break you. It is trying to promote you. From the job of building a life to the calling of living one. Pause for a moment and ask with gentle honesty, what wall is your ladder leaning against? This realization is the first step out of the crisis. It reframes your pain from a symptom of failure to a signal of transition. It gives you permission to put down the old map, the one that is no longer working. But if the old map of achievement is now useless, where do we find the new one? How do we discover the coordinates for this second journey, the journey home to ourselves? Carl Jung's answer is revolutionary. You stop searching for a passion, and you start excavating for clues.
Your calling is not hiding from you. In fact, it has been leaving you a trail of breadcrumbs your entire life. The problem is that we have been taught to look for a bonfire, a single blazing passion that will magically illuminate our path. And when we don't find it, we assume we don't have one. This is the great myth of passion. It sends us on an external search for a feeling. But a calling is not a feeling. It is a quiet, persistent summons from a place deeper than our conscious desires. The word vocation comes from the Latin vocare, which means to call. It is not something you choose, it is something you hear. And the work is not to search, but to learn how to listen. To become a psychological archaeologist, excavating the clues that your own soul has buried for you in plain sight. Carl Jung's work shows us that there are 3 primary places to dig, 3 sacred sites where the map to your calling is most often found. The first clue is the golden thread of childhood fascination. Before the world told you who you should be, who were you? Before you had to think about a mortgage, a career, or what was practical, what did you love to do? Just for the pure, simple joy of it. Think back to when you were 8, or 10, or 12 years old. Were you the child who organized the neighborhood games? The one who spent hours building intricate worlds with Legos? The one who cared for stray animals? The one who was always taking things apart to see how they worked? The one who loved to tell stories? These childhood fascinations are not trivial. They are the purest expression of your soul's innate energy.
They are the golden thread. Your calling, in its adult form, is very often a more mature, sophisticated expression of that same original impulse. The child who loved building with Legos may find their calling as an architect, a city planner, or a systems designer. The child who told stories may become a writer, a therapist, a teacher, or a leader who inspires through narrative. Your calling is not something new you must find. It is something old you must remember. The second clue is the alchemical wound. This is a more difficult, but often more powerful place to look. In Greek mythology, the wise centaur Chiron was known as the wounded healer. He was the greatest teacher and healer of his time, yet he suffered from a wound that he himself could never heal. This is a profound psychological truth. Very often, our greatest gift to the world is hidden inside our deepest wound. The place where you have struggled the most, the place of your greatest pain, is the very territory your soul is calling you to serve. The person who struggled with a deep sense of not belonging may find their calling in creating communities. The person who fought their way out of addiction may become a brilliant recovery coach. The person who navigated a profound loss may have a unique capacity to guide others through grief. Your wound is not your shame. It is your qualification. It is the alchemical fire that has forged in you a unique wisdom and a profound compassion. Your soul is not asking you to forget your wound. It is asking you to transform it into medicine for others. The third clue is the whispers of the unconscious. Your soul is communicating with you all the time, especially when you're not listening with your conscious mind. The two most common channels for these whispers are your dreams and synchronicities. What are the recurring themes or symbols in your dreams? Do you keep dreaming of water, of flying, of being back in school? These are not random. They are symbolic messages from yourself, pointing towards what is out of balance or what is wanting to emerge. And what about synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that Jung spoke of? Have you been wrestling with a career change, only to coincidentally run into 3 different people in 1 week who are all thriving in a new field? Do you keep seeing a particular animal or hearing a specific word or phrase everywhere you go? The rational mind dismisses these as coincidence. The soul recognizes them as a wink from the universe, as breadcrumbs on the trail. They are the gentle, persistent nudges from your deeper self, confirming you are on the right path or inviting you to look in a new direction. Pause here. Let's do a small act of archaeology together. Go back to your 10-year-old self. What was one thing you loved to do just for the joy of it? Share that lost love, that golden thread, in the comments below. Let us witness the first clues of our collective callings. These 3 clues, the golden thread, the alchemical wound, and the whispers of the unconscious, are not a simple formula. They are a starting point for a lifelong conversation. Your calling is not a single job title that you will find one day. It is the ongoing process of weaving these threads together to create the unique tapestry of your life's work. It is the act of living your own myth. But as soon as we begin to see this new path, this trail of clues leading away from the safe, familiar ladder, we are met with a powerful resistance, the voice of fear, the great guardians of the status quo. The moment you hear the call is often the moment the fear begins to scream. To answer the call of your soul is rarely a logical, practical, or financially responsible decision. It feels like madness to the ego. And so, the ego, in its desperate attempt to keep you safe, will deploy its most powerful weapons of resistance. First, there is the fear of the irrational. A calling does not come with a business plan. It doesn't have a 5-year projection. It often feels like a whisper, a pull towards something that makes no logical sense. To leave a secure, well-paying career as a lawyer to become a potter? To step away from a management position to work with rescue animals? The persona you have carefully built will scream in protest. The inner critic will tell you that you're being foolish, irresponsible, and destined for failure. This is the ego's terror in the face of the unknown. Second, there is the shadow of the inner child. The wounded part of you that craves security and approval above all else will be activated. If you grew up with financial instability, the thought of leaving a steady paycheck will feel like a threat to your very survival. If you grew up needing to please your parents, the thought of choosing a path they don't understand or approve of will feel like a profound betrayal. This wounded part of you will do anything to sabotage the journey, through procrastination, self-doubt, or creating endless distractions. And finally, there is perhaps the most insidious resistance of all: the golden handcuffs. This is the trap of being too successful, the trap of being too comfortable. You have built a life that is, by all external measures, wonderful. You are paid well for a job you are good at, even if it drains your soul. To walk away from this feels like an act of insanity. The comfort of the cage you are in becomes more compelling than the terrifying freedom of the open sky. You are handcuffed by your own success. These forces of resistance are powerful. They are real, and they are the reason so many people hear the call, but so few answer it. So what do? The answer, again, is a radical reframe. The common myth is that answering your calling requires a dramatic burn-the-boats moment, a heroic leap of faith into the abyss. For a very few, this may be their path. But for most of us, the path is much quieter, more patient, and more sustainable. You do not need to take a leap. You need to build a bridge. This is the great secret of the transition. You build a bridge, stone by stone, from the life you have to the life that is calling you. You do not have to abandon your current career tomorrow. You simply have to start laying the first stone of the bridge today. And here are 3 ways to do that. The first tool is the Soulful Side Project. This is your sacred laboratory, your safe space to experiment with your calling without risking your security. Choose just one of the clues you have uncovered, your golden thread, your alchemical wound, and dedicate a small, non-negotiable amount of time to it each week, just 2 or 3 hours. If your golden thread was storytelling, start that blog. If your alchemical wound was around anxiety, start a small, informal meditation group. If you always loved building, take that weekend woodworking class. The key is to treat this not as a new business, but as a sacred practice. Its only purpose is to nourish your soul and to allow you to be in conversation with the energy of your calling. This is the first stone of your bridge. The second tool is to bring the calling to the career. You may not be able to leave your job right now, but you can begin to transform it from the inside out. Ask yourself, what are the qualities of my calling? Not the job title, but the essence. Perhaps the essence of your calling is teaching. You can look for opportunities to mentor a junior colleague at your current job. Perhaps the essence is healing. You can choose to become a more compassionate listener in your meetings. Perhaps the essence is creating order from chaos. You can volunteer to take on a disorganized project and bring your unique gift to it. By doing this, you are no longer just an accountant or a manager or a salesperson. You are a teacher, a healer, a creator who happens to be working in an office. You begin to infuse the vessel of your current work with the spirit of your true work. You start to practice your calling right where you are. And finally, there is perhaps the most insidious resistance of all. Follow the energy. Your body, as we've learned, is a profound source of wisdom. It's your inner compass. For the next week, I invite you to become a detective of your own energy. Carry a small notebook and simply notice what activities, what conversations, what parts of your day leave you feeling energized and alive, and what parts leave you feeling drained, heavy, and deadened. The answer to that question is more valuable than any career aptitude test. Your energy does not lie. The things that energize you are pointing you in the direction of your calling. The things that drain you are showing you where you are out of alignment. Simply by noticing this without judgment, you begin to gather the intelligence you need to make small, conscious shifts. More of this, less of that. Stone by stone, you are building your bridge in the direction of life.
Today, we have stood at the great fork in the road of adult life, the place where the ladder of the ego ends and the path of the soul begins. We've learned that the midlife crisis, that feeling of hollow success, is not a sign of failure. It is a sacred summons, a graduation ceremony, signaling that you have successfully completed the work of the first half of life and are now ready for the deeper journey of the second. We have discarded the myth of following your passion and have instead become psychological archaeologists. We have learned to excavate the 3 sacred clues that lead to our calling, the golden thread of our childhood fascinations, the alchemical wound that holds our greatest gift, and the quiet whispers of the unconscious in our dreams and synchronicities. And finally, we have been given a new strategy, not a terrifying leap, but the patient, courageous work of building a bridge. We have been given 3 practical tools to begin this construction: the soulful side project, our sacred laboratory, the art of bringing the calling to our current career, and the simple, profound wisdom of following the energy. A calling is not a job title. It is not a destination you arrive at one day. It is a direction. It is a conversation. It is the lifelong, ongoing process of aligning the work you do in the outer world with the truth of who you are in your inner world. This journey is a core part of your shadow work as you reclaim the parts of you that were sacrificed for the sake of a sensible career. To live your calling is to consciously participate in the unique, mythic story that your soul came here to live. It is the source of a quiet, deep, and sustainable fulfillment that no amount of external success can ever provide. As we begin this journey, as we start to live more authentically from our soul's truth, this new, emerging self is inevitably tested, and it is often tested most profoundly in the most intimate arena of our lives, our family. The new boundaries you set, the new priorities you honor, how do these impact your role as a parent? How do our children, in their innocence, become the most powerful mirrors for our own unhealed wounds and our own shadow? That is the deep, challenging, and beautiful territory we will explore together in our next conversation as we look at parenting as a mirror. For this week, your work is not to quit your job or to have all the answers. Your work is simply to begin the excavation. I invite you to a small, sacred act of psychological archaeology. Take out a journal, find a quiet moment, and answer this one question. When I was 10 years old,
What did I love to do just for the fun of it? Don't analyze it, don't judge it, don't try to figure out how to monetize it. Simply reconnect with the memory, reconnect with the feeling, reconnect with that pure golden thread of your original self. To honor that child and the wisdom they hold for you, I invite you to share one of those lost loves in the comments below. Building worlds, telling stories, being in nature. Let us create a museum of these forgotten treasures, and in doing so, take the first courageous step on the trail back to our life's true work. The ladder is behind you. The path is just beginning.